All right, good morning, everybody. With God's help, I just returned from a wonderful, amazing month in New York, in the headquarters of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Thousands of Hasidim. And I spoke and I danced with everybody else. And it was wonderful. It was simply wonderful. But now let's return back to our learning as we did before, as we were before, made better than before. Here we are. We have Parshas Noach. All right, this week's Torah portion, we see a very strange story, bizarre story that, let's see, how do I get the picture over here? Bizarre story that, so it used to be, there was a picture of me in the corner here. What happened? Security video. No, we want that. Okay, let's see. We'll try to figure out how it works. So we see that there was this week's talking about Noah, and that there was a big flood. That's the big scene over here. Share screen. No. I don't know why it doesn't have my picture in the corner. Oh, there it is. There we go. Good. Okay, so everything is back to normal. It's a big flood. That's what it features is the big flood. Now we know that since then there hasn't been a big flood like this, and God even swore that there wasn't going to be a big flood. In fact, God, if you're really exact in the wording, you'll see that it means that God swore that He's never going to destroy the world again. So what's the whole point of the story? Just to tell you a historical, fact that is the Torah accurate? Was it not accurate? Was there really such a thing as a flood? Is there any recorded evidence, or some sort of astronomical evidence, or whatever it's called, archaeological, or what's it called? Astrological. I remember once I used to be into astrology a little bit, and one of these books that I read said that in the calculation of time that you have to take off 1 year because there was 1 year that the stars didn't move in Noah. So maybe that's what it's relevant to us today. So we want to say no, that the whole point of the Torah, every story of the Torah, even from the stories of how man was created and he sinned and things like that, every word of the Torah, everything is very, very important to our day-to-day life and how we serve the Creator. Now, especially Noah, because the vast, preponderance of the world are non-Jews. And Noah was the ideal prototype of a non-Jew. That's why all the Jews today are called B'nai Noach. They're called the sons of Noah, because Noah basically defied his whole generation. Everyone was sinning with the worst type of sins, with all sorts of degradations and twisting the ways of nature. So according to some opinions, that before the flood, that's where the dinosaurs came from, because all the animals had the ability to have sexual relations one with the other without any kind. In other words, alligators with elephants and cows, all sorts of things. However it came out, and whatever it was, it says that everything was perverted. And the only one not perverted was Noah. Somehow or other, he withstood the spirit of the times. And he was a normal person, he had the same drives as everybody else, but he just did not listen to his urges because he realized it was the wrong thing. And because of that, God saved him. Okay, so that's one point. But why all this detail about the water? I got it to do with the water. So let's go. Mayim Rabim. Let's see. I'm just getting back, so I have to get back into the mode and know what buttons to press. Here we go. Mayim Rabim lo yochlu lichbos za'ava v'na'aras lo yishtafua. Im yitain ish es kol hon beso ba'ava buz yabuzu lo. This is a sentence from the Song of Songs of King Solomon. Now, we've talked about this before, especially in the month of Elul, when we talk about Ani Ladodi Ladodi Li. The Song of Songs is the only book in the Torah that has no simple meaning to it. It's all an allegory between the Jewish people and God and the Jewish people. It's a love song between the Jewish people and God and the Jewish people. So it's saying, Mayim Rabim, turbulent water, flood waters. This is what King Solomon writes for the Jewish people for all time. Mayim Rabim, turbulent waters, Lo Yachlu Lichbot Sahaba, cannot extinguish the love. Benaros and rivers, Lo Yishtafu, can't wash it away. Imitain ish et kol hon beito. If a person gives all the riches of his house, ba'ava, in love, buz yabuzulo, that won't be worth anything. In place of this love is so valuable that all the possessions in the world are not are like nothing compared to it. It's like nothing, right? It's like going to a big king and saying, Your Majesty, if you want to stop, deciding, forget about being a king, go and be a street sweeper, and if you do, I'll give you my lollipop, my popsicle, or whatever it is, right? A candy. So what do you got? Candy? What's a candy? I'm a king. What type of a thing is that? God being a king. The same thing. The love of God is so valuable and so precious that nothing really else is worthwhile. And in fact, that's what it comes down is the only thing that's left, basically, of a person. A person makes $1 billion, whatever it is. Whatever he did for the creator of the universe, that's what's worthwhile. Hine, behold, Mayim Rabim, these, okay, King Solomon wrote in the book called The Song of Songs, turbulent waters cannot wash away this love. Okay, how would you think that turbulent waters could wash away love? A person that loves his family, he has a good friend. If it's really true love, how is water going to wash it away? When a big flood is going to wash it away? Exactly the opposite. Right? A lot of times a big flood that brings out, he remembers the love he has for his family, misses his children, his wife, his whatever. But here we're talking about love of God. How would you think that water could wash away the love of God? I mean, if a person loves his wife, his family, I mean, God gave us all these things. He's giving us all these things. Family, life, wife, children, success, possessions, these things, if you love these things and you're attracted to them, which is a good thing, but how much more so you should love God who's giving you all these things. He's giving you life, he's giving you eyes to see, he's giving you health. So you should certainly love God. What type of water would you think could wipe this away? The King Solomon has to say, even turbulent waters cannot wash away this love of God, right? After you've attained this true love of God, is eternal. God is always here. A person's wife, his family, right? I mean, they're here. Even when they, God forbid, they pass away, you can still love them. You have eternal love for them. But it's not exactly the same thing as when they were here. But God is always here. He's always creating us. So that's true love. What if a person can think about it a little bit, what God is and how close God is, how good God is. The problem is to see it and feel it. Once that the person does, how would you think that water, a flood waters would take it away? Says the Rabbi, what is this flood waters that King Solomon is alluding to? Hine Mayim Rabim, this turbulent water is a kolatirus, a parnasa of a machshavos shebe'inyani olam hazeh. It's talking about bothers of troubles of making a living, providing for your family, for yourself, and things of this world, matters of this world. Right? God made it. A person is in this world, he has to eat. You have to have clothes. You have to have a place to sleep. You have to have a house. You have to have something. Even if you decide, you know what, I'm not going to work anymore. I'm going to be on the streets. You know, you have to look for a place to eat. You have to, what type of a life is that also? Person wants to have a life where he feels that he's achieving something. He has to have a family, he has to have a home. In order to keep these things, you have to have food. You have to have money. That's one of the big things in the elections, right? On the presidential elections. Food, that's how communism succeeded. We're going to provide all of your needs, your food. You don't have any worries anymore. Making a parnas, a living, and also other matters of this world, what the people think about me, people have problems with health, with this. All the matters of this world that trouble us and confuse us, they can't take away this love. That is in every single Jew. Okay, now here we're getting the difference between the Jewish people and everybody else. The Jewish people, they're called the sons of God. Right? B'ni B'chor Yisrael, they're called my son, my chosen ones, the Jewish people. What does it mean they're chosen? They're better than everybody else? No, they're not better than everybody else. First of all, they're different than everyone else. In this aspect, their relationship to God. Every Jew has an automatic love for God. But I just came back from New York. The millions of people, they're wonderful night people. People you could say hello, good morning. But it's not like my family. It's not my own family. Even my friends aren't like my own family. A person's family, a person's mother, father, right? A person's mother and father, you have a close relationship. If you have a normal relationship, close relationship. A father to a son to a father. Well, that's the relationship between the Jews and God. That's one aspect of the Jews and God. The Jews are also called the servants of God. They're also called the wife of God. What does it mean, the son of God? That we have a certain emotional, deep emotional attachment to the creator of the universe. That's the Jewish people have. Now, most people don't feel this. That's why it's called Ava Mesuter. It's called concealed love. You have to work on it. Even religious people. You do the commandments, you learn the Torah, it still is concealed, but it's there. It's a hidden love to the Creator that every Jew has, B'teva, by nature, because every Jew has what's called a godly soul. That its nature is to always be elevated above. Kishalhav is like a flame, this Jewish soul. It's like a flame that goes up on its own. Like it's written above this pasuk over here, the sentence that says, Rishfei Eish Shalahavas Yudke. Where is this? Rishfei Eish Shalahavas Yudke. Its flame is like a flame of fire, a flame from the name of God, Yudke, name of God. So every Jew has this intrinsic, deep, hidden love for God. It's there. It's automatic. Now you have to say a little word about what God is. It's very, very, God created the world in such a way that it's totally not understood what God is, right? If you even take the biblical narrative, what's the biblical narrative? God is he's a figure. He's one of the characters in the Bible. He's like the main one. He's like the voice in the background or something like that. But okay, what it says in the Bible is true. God did speak to Adam and he spoke to Noah, spoke to Abraham. So God is one of the figures in the Bible. So, but really that's a very deep aspect of God, that God speaks. That's the whole idea of the Torah, God speaking. But there's a much more, user-friendly, if you want to call it, aspect of God. God is creating everything. God creates everything there is in the world. Everything in the world that exists is being created by nothing. Everything in the world is a miracle. So there's no place where God is not. God is every place. In fact, every place is just, you want to say, within God. It's very misleading to say that. In other words, God is definitely not a thing. Everything in the world is a thing. The angels, the stars, the powers, all these powers and spiritual levels and whatever it is that all the religions are based on. And those are being created constantly. Time is a creation. Me, you, everyone, it's all a creation of God. And God is creating everything constantly. So if so, in this way, God is infinitely close to us. He's much closer to us and much more real than we can possibly imagine. The reason we don't see this is because the world is very misleading. So that the world it doesn't try to, it succeeds in saying that that's reality. Reality is what we see, what we feel. That's real reality. That's the only reality. And the fact is that the world is real, it's being created, God is creating it, so it's really real. But if we would see, feel, sense the Creator, is we would sense something much more valuable and precious in every detail there is in the world. The world would be transparent, so to speak. So every Jew feels this. We're that's the motto of Judaism, God is one. We say that God is one. What happened? What did I do here? No. Okay. Oh, I see. There we go. I gotta make this thing here. Okay. So every Jew has this love. Like we said before, its flame, it has a flame of fire. This is a flame which comes from above. The godly soul. That before it came into the physical body, it was basking in the rays of God's presence. Shekhinah means the revelation of God. It was totally united with Ein Sof Baruch Hu. And that's what we're saying, that God is one. Right? God is not a person. You cannot worship people. You cannot worship powers. You cannot worship stars or whatever. You can get help from people. You can go to a doctor. You can go to spiritual help for sure. You can ask, even from the departed, you can ask spiritual help. Sure, if you can ask a doctor for help, you can ask, but you cannot worship anything except for the Creator, because that's the first of the 10 commandments. I am God, took you out of Egypt. You cannot have any other gods. Therefore, even after the soul is clothed in the body, to deal with physical things, which are called mayim rabim, which they are called turbulent waters. Nevertheless, these turbulent waters, which are the troubles and the confusion and the frustrations of this world, cannot confuse this love, milios tamid, to be constant, a tremendous love for God, to be included in God. So interestingly, God put us into this world not to be removed from the world. That's the mistake some of the Eastern religions have made. Right? Even though that's, they're not going to get punished or anything like this, but it's missing the point. We're here in this world in order to unite these two opposites. On one end, the Creator, and reveal it in the creation. To be constantly aware that there is a Creator. He gave the Torah. He wants us to do the commandments in this world, to have a family, to have a home, to have a house, and still be attached as much as possible to the oneness of God all the time. Therefore, nothing can put out this flame, to be a tremendous love, to go up and be attached to God. In fact, that the world will try to confuse us and to quench this love, but it won't work. Says the Rebbe exactly the opposite. God put us into this world not just to torture us and to take us away deviate us from our goal and our true connection to the truth, but exactly the opposite. By means of being put into this world in these turbulent waters, a person can reach a higher level than before. Before it came down into this world, like we're going to explain, and that's the whole point. That this world will actually bring us to a higher appreciation and love and awe and faith in the Creator of the universe. Because the Creator of the universe has a goal, a personality. That's where these voices are coming from. When God tells us, gave us the Torah and gave the prophets, spoke to Noah. That's the purpose of the world, why we're here. And when a person feels this, he feels a tremendous love for God, but simultaneously you can express this love of God in the world. In the world. These turbulent waters are called Mei Noach. They are called the waters of Noah. Like it says in Isaiah, Asher Nishbati, that God said, I swore, Mila Avor, that I'm never going to bring this water of Noah on the world anymore. Ki Nishbati Miketzef Alecha, because I have sworn off being angry at you, Migar, and to get angry at you. This is what the prophet Isaiah said. That God swore he was never going to destroy the Jews, he was never going to destroy the world, despite what the Jews do. Behold, Noah, what is this word? Why did he get this name Noah? Noah, the name Noah is in the Hebrew, it's called Noach. Noach, the word Noach means comfort. Naicha derucha. This is a comforting spirit. Shehu bechinas shechina shavita ba'adam. What? Noach means also to rest. Nach. What this is like the idea of Shabbat, the Sabbath day. This is when a person rests from doing his work. Kamosh Katuv, like it says, Vayishbot bayom hashavi, v'tagam vanach bayom hadeshavi. Nach means to rest. Like it says, Noach. In this week's Torah portion, it says the name of Noach twice. Heim neicha de'ilah and neicha datatoa. This is two types of resting, or two types of, you want to call it, pleasure. This is the upper resting, the lower resting, and the upper resting. What's going on over here? We're going to see in 1 minute. Then in the future, Yom Shekula Shabbat. It's called the day that is all Shabbat. When a person finishes his work, so he rests, and then he gets pleasure from his work, like a painter, right? A painter paints a beautiful picture, or a musician records some sort of a beautiful composition. He finishes the composition. When he finishes his work that he did, or a builder builds a house or whatever, he sits back and he looks at it, gets pleasure from it. This is nice. He gets enjoyment. That's supposed to be the idea of Shabbat. The whole idea of Shabbat is that you work the whole rest of the week, and on the Shabbat day, you're supposed to sit down and say all the work is finished, and you can get pleasure from what you did. That's what God did when he created the world. When God created the world, just 1 second, I want to turn on the air conditioner over here, son. When God created the world, so it says he created it in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. What do you have to rest for? It says that the whole world is being created by God all the time, and on the 7th day, all of this energy that's in the world, it raises back up to God. Shabbos is the day of pleasure that you get from pleasure in the Creator. The whole rest of the week, that's working with the creation. And the 7th day, that's what God created on the 7th day, so to speak. He created appreciation. That in the future, after when Moshiach comes, eventually there's going to be total rest. We'll be able to appreciate all of the 6,000 years that we've been tortured in this world. Masha'en Kain Shabbos Tatoa, that's the upper Shabbat. That upper Shabbat, that's this revelation that's going to be in the future. Masha'en Kain Shabbat Tatoa, which is not the case. The lower Shabbat, Eno, the Shabbat is not totally Shabbat, Kasher Yitpo'er, like we're going to explain. So this world corresponds to the upper worlds, but the upper worlds are not revealed now, and they will be revealed totally in the days of the Mashiach. But it's not understood. Let's go back to the biblical narrative. Let's understand, what is this thing of the flood? Why did God have to bring a flood to destroy everybody? It took 40 days of rain, and then the flood was on the world for a year. Everything. Why did God have to schlep this thing out for a year? Why? Raklav here. If it was only to get rid of If it was only to get rid of and to destroy people, the sinners, why did it have to be such a big thing? God could have destroyed everybody without a flood. I got a better idea. Even God could have just stopped creating them. God is creating everything all the time, right? All the people who sinned. Next day, everybody wakes up and they're not there anymore. Everybody sinned, so nobody's there. What does God have to create everybody for all the time? God could have said, "That's it. Only Noah's going to be alive." I remember there used to be this when I was a kid, the Twilight Zone or something. Some guy wakes up in the morning and he finds out there's nobody in the world except for him. And what do they see to? He walks around. God could have made it like that. Why not? Right? Noah wakes up in the morning with his wife and his kids. His kids come back in the morning and they say, there's all these bicycles strewn all around the place. There's no one's around. What's going on? Right? No one's in the streets. He walks to the streets. Nobody's there. No policeman. No. Could be. Why not? Why did God have to do such a thing? That would also be very impressive if God did that. Why did he have to make a flood with waters and the whole thing had to draw for 1 year? Why? But really, the reason the flood came was in order to purify the world. That the people not only deviated and perverted themselves, but they perverted the whole world. The world itself, the world that depends on man. As soon as man didn't do what God wants him to do, so it defiled not only man, but it defiled the whole world. So God had to refine the whole entire world. So therefore came the flood. This is water in order to purify the impure. Shehu kadugmas a mikveh, like a mikveh, mesa. A mikveh, a memsa is 40 units of water. There has to be a certain amount of water called, it's a biblical measure. Shehu mitahara tatameh, that a mikveh refines the impure. That's what a mikveh does. So through water, kamoke, and similar, the flood came in order to refine the world. Like it says in the prophet Ezekiel, I threw upon you pure water v'tahartem, and purified you. Therefore, it's called Mei Noach. That's why the flood is called the waters of Noah. Why? Because it made pleasure for God. It brought rest to God. God was angered by the world. And the world became, a lot of times you can go to certain places and you just go to the place causes you all sorts of bad thoughts and bad urges and bad ideas. So that's what the whole world was. Everybody in the world was just, how do you call, party land. Everybody was doing whatever they wanted to, and they were getting away with it. God said, that's not what I want. I don't want people to do what they want. I want people to do what I want. I want people to want to do what I want. So therefore, God destroyed the world. Behold, so God made the world in a certain pattern, and the pattern is that water purifies. So now let's go back to us. Me and you, what do we say this flooding waters are? The flooding waters, they're the troubles and problems of making a livelihood, of getting along in the world. And we said that that's also called the waters of Noah. So that also somehow or other refines us, purifies us. Like the rabbi says, Shabachar lo Avram Avinu Shibud Neged Gehinnom. God said, I'll give you a choice for your children. Either they'll all go to hell or they'll be in exile. Which would you rather? So Abraham said, better they should be in exile. What does he mean, exile? That a person is in the world and he's being created by God, and the world is being created by God, and the person thinks that he's alone. He thinks that that's terribly confusing. That the job of the Jews, that's what the Jews are chosen for. The Jews are chosen to tell everybody that they're not alone, that God is with them. Just like it's impossible to the soul, for the soul. The soul can't go up to heaven until it first of all comes into Gehenom. First of all, it has to go to hell. Like it says, Acher. By Acher. I'll tell you who Acher was in a second. Sad story. It says by Acher, it's better that he should be judged than go to heaven. Okay, so the story about Acher is like this, just in a short way. We talked about this before. Acher, his name was Elisha ben Avua. He was a tremendous Talmudic scholar, a genius person. And in many ways, he was a very holy person. He was but somehow or other, it says that when he was a baby, his mother passed by an idolatry place and smelled idolatry, whatever it was. Acher became a big renegade, a big, what do we call it, an apostate. Knew everything. In fact, he was a teacher, it says even of, what is it? Rabbi Meir. He was a teacher. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Meir. Have to look. In any case, he was a big a genius, and he knew everything there was to the Torah, and he knew how to love God and how to serve God, but he also had these big, crazy ideas. And he became a big apostate. So it says when he died, so he was in limbo. He couldn't go to heaven because he had done so many bad things. He couldn't go to hell because he did a lot of good things. So it says that his pupil, I think it was Rabbi Meir, his pupil was Rabbi Meir, not Rabbi Akiva. So his pupil, Rabbi Meir, arranged it that he would go to hell and be judged in hell in order that he could go to heaven. So they said, what type of a favor is this? Going to hell, 1 second of hell is like 70 years of the pain of Job. The pain, terrible, awesome pains. How could he send them down to hell? So it's because it's better to go down to hell and suffer these pains in order to even go to one moment into heaven. So it says that everybody in this world, because you're in the world, so you get attached to the world somewhere. That attachment to the world, that false attachment to the world, it has to be cleaned off, and that's why there's such a thing as hell. And so this world, that we're in this world, it says that Abraham chose that we should be in exile instead of going to hell. So exile also does the same thing. It burns away, it washes away all this confusion, and getting out of the confusion, going through this confusion and all this terrible suffering in this world, somehow or other, it elevates us. And similarly, by means of the shibud, by means of our being in exile, a person his soul becomes refined. He can go higher and higher and higher levels of purity, of awareness of the Creator. Awareness why he's here. Hine shibud, ein aperish mashi yesh aleinu ata. And that what it says, being in exile. It's not like it says now that we have a king. Vishen nofel mitanu mas did not tell. I'm sorry, he takes from us taxes. Shagam is man of Beis Hamikdash. Also in the time of the Holy Temple, there was also a king, a Jewish king, and he also took taxes from everybody, took away money. And even the taxes were even greater. Everybody had to give 1/10 of his wealth. So the idea of being in exile doesn't just mean we can't do what we want. We have a king that forces us to do things. But the intention is of being in exile. What is this exile that washes away our sins? In the time of the temple, there was a blessing in everything until the land of Israel was a land that says of flowing milk and honey. Shalal pitava kalal, it was not natural at all. Like it says in the Gemara, Sof Maseches, like it says in the end of Maseches Kesuvos. In the time of the temple people did not worry about making money. And now each and every person has now we have to work for our, it could be that you have money the next day, one day, you haven't got anything. This is what's called the turbulent waters. It's called the waters of Noah. The troubles of this world bring us to a higher realization of the closeness of God, the goodness of God, the highness of God. I think I told you this before, but I'll tell you it again. I think this illustrates the point. There was this fellow, but I just died recently. His name was Maidov. He was a sick person, but he was a genius and money, and he stole billions. They say up to $100 billion. I don't know. I sort of followed it a little bit. Anyway, stole, and he only stole from rich people, and he mostly only and from organizations, and he mostly only stole from Jews because they trusted him. They trusted him. He stole a lot from fortunes from Jewish organizations, Yeshiva University, and all these things. So there was some lady I saw that she came on. She had a video on the internet, and she said that Madoff did her a big favor. She's very grateful to him. So I wanted to see what's going on. So what happened? He stole all of her money. She and her husband, they had been professional people. She was, I don't know, like a lawyer. Her husband was a professor, and they were already like in their 60s, and they had, a few $1 million in the bank. And Maidov stole the whole thing. Not only stole the whole thing, but they mortgaged their house, and everybody was investing in him because he was giving these tremendous interest rates and whatever. And he fooled everybody. He was just, nobody knows exactly what happened with the money. So, so she said he stole all my money. So she said she was going crazy. Everything she worked for was gone. Her future was gone. She started to worry. She said she couldn't sleep at night. She was talking to herself. She was wandering around the house. She said, I have to think of something to make me normal. All of a sudden popped into her mind the thought, what if I had to make an eye operation? Wouldn't I have spent all my money for the eye operation? Yes. Not to be blind. And what if I have to make an eye operation and an hearing operation? I wouldn't have had money for the hearing because I spent it all for the money. What if I had to make an eye operation, a hearing operation, and also a spine operation so I could walk? Wouldn't I make operations for those? Of course I would give all money. Well, here I have my eyes, I have my hearing, I have my spine, I can walk, and I didn't have to make an operation. And I got it. And then she said, once again, think of all the things I can see with my eyes. I can see a sunset. I can see children playing. I can see look at the sea. Look at pictures. What are all things I can hear? I can hear beautiful music. The places I can walk. And she said, I never appreciated these things before. My eyes were blinded by the money that I had, and now I appreciate that what I can see. It's worth more than all the money I had. I hate Madoff. I hope he burns in hell. She says, but on the other hand, I'm grateful to him. He opened up my eyes. So same thing, the troubles from this world, suddenly she became face to face with this world. She didn't have her money for protection. The troubles for the world can elevate a person. And this is called the waters of Noach. Because by means of these waters, a soul can be elevated very, very high, and etc. And to the point where he actually appreciates God. Right? God is creating this beautiful world. Like it says, like it says, it's better to do good deeds in this world than all the world to come. Because that's a better type of light which comes from darkness. This is the level of eskafia cheshuv chadahor. This is the level of transforming darkness as hapcha, of forcing oneself to do good and then naturally becoming good, transforming the darkness of this world to good. That's what it was. A person, when he works in this world all the time, the world, it says, can confuse the person, make a person confused. And that's the whole idea of, see, how do I go 10 pages over here? There is definitely a way to do it. And I don't know what the way is. Anyway, there's a way to turn to the next page. I'm sure that there is. But for some reason, I can't get to the next page. So stop over here. So what do we learn? That the troubles and the difficulties and the confusions and frustrations of this world purify a person, refine a person. I mean, I personally think Hashem sort of overdid it. There's all these people that died in the Holocaust and things like that. How did it improve them? But we'll find out how when Mashiach comes. It says all of the difficulties and troubles of the world will make sense. But nevertheless, they do sense. God knows what he's doing, and he's doing it for a good purpose. I mean, I wish he would stop doing it for whatever it is and just reveal the purpose. But nevertheless, while we are here, the point is that the difficulties and frustrations and darkness of this world really has a good purpose to it. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. We'll start classes again tomorrow, and we'll also learn a Sikha of the Rebbe. Continue learning a Sikha of the Rebbe from, and every day we'll continue in the same way. So have a good day, everyone, with Mashiach now.